all the time. Though you have to establish a channel, if you want to use that term, you have to establish a communication channel that cannot be monitored by those in control. And that for the Mythian civilization was telepathy.
Do you think that will happen here on Earth as well?
Provided there are sufficient humans that develop that as a skill that can not get caught up in the power and control or have their attention drawn away from the natural development of their own abilities, then yes, that is something that should naturally develop.
How far away do you think we are from that?
Well, if you were to take, say, the whole of mankind as it is today, you are a very long way from it. Though what is interesting to observe is that your younger generations, your younger populations are starting to be less compliant, if you want to use that term, with those that are in control, those that have the power. And they are focusing their energies on their own abilities to survive, their own ways of being, their own ways of developing and raising their own energetic levels. So there is a breakdown in the reliance of the younger generation on those that are in power and control. There is a movement back to that which is naturally available on your planet, rather than becoming attached to things that are produced and the distribution of which is controllable. It is a different way of being. It is a different movement through existence, where you come to rely on yourself and your survival instincts and your ability to attract energetically that which resonates and is attracted to you at your energetic level, rather than seek the things that you need.
That's very interesting. How, I know we've spoken already about time, differences on our planet.
Yes. We had time, if you like.
Yes.
It's one of those things that I can sense that you use to decide how old something is, or but time now for us is not discussed. It is not talked about. It is, you are present in the moment. Of course, we sleep like you do. We do not have eternal energy in the body, so the body does need to rest, but it sleeps when it needs to sleep, and that is acceptable.
Do the bodies age now?
They do, but they age less because they are not so fearful, they are not so stressed, they exist at an energetic level which is in harmony with the environment in which they exist. So life, as you would use that term, is, or existence is, much longer in duration.
Can you describe how your society works? You know, do, for example, people still have jobs and go to work?
People do have what you call jobs, and they produce things, though they are not paid for it. If you want to use energy from the perspective of money, it is a global community. It is, what is your skill? What do you wish to do? There is no you will do this or you will do that. There are, of course, the basics that people want. They want a roof over their heads, they want a food to eat, and there is a certain encouragement of Mythians to gravitate towards that, though there is no forcing. And if somebody wants to produce something that is outside of the realm of those basic needs, then they make an application to the elders. If it is something new, then they make an application to the elders, and the elders discuss it. And if the elders are in agreement, then it will go out to the global community to say, we have something here that we want to know whether you would appreciate having it in your existence. And if the majority say no, then it is not produced.
And what might that be? Would that be a more luxury item?
Well, it might be, that is an interesting word, luxury.
Yes.
Because we do not have that word anymore. It is simply a functional item, if you like. It would be something more of a new invention. There is not the desire to enhance to a level, for instance, gadget that you might have by adding this and adding that, and we do not have that as a desire. We are happier with less. If you continue to add more, then life gets a lot more complex. So we have moved away from the complex way of living to the simple way of living, the simple way of interacting with one another on our oneness basis.
So is there more equality in, for example, the kind of houses that people live in?
Yes, there is, within a range of houses that people live in terms of how big their families are. All the families tend to live together now.
Right.
The grandmothers and the grandfathers and the children, they all live together or in the same community. Of course they can move away, though there is the tendency to move back from the distant way of living from your family to the desire to be within those that are of the same energetic qualities, if you like, as yourself. Family is the basic level at which we exist.
Okay, and do you eat?
Yes, we eat. We have to take in nutrition to sustain the body.
Yeah.
There is no difference there.
And can you describe what changes have occurred in your food industry?
Well, again, you can apply this principle to any industry within mankind. It was the same for all the industries in the Mythian civilization. It was simply and not necessarily a forced removal of the power and control and the ownership of the distribution. It was a giving up or giving to the people, and we continued to produce the same foods. It was simply the giving up of the need, of the desire to control other people. So the transfer of the distribution networks went into the Elder Council, and they would decide if they were working properly or not, and they would make alterations for the good of the people. We still have the ability to remove elders from the council. It is one of those rights, as you have within your mankind, where you can remove those that are in the power and control within the government, within the control network, although, as I have said, we do not see it as a control network. But if there is something that is becoming apparent because the Elder Council is an open forum and is available for inspection at any time by anyone, of course there has to be some system in order to facilitate that. However, the workings of the Elder Council are an open book, a term you use, and they can be inspected by anybody at any time. And so it has not happened that we have had to remove any part of the Elder Council.
So the transparency is very useful to you.
It is essential for the nature of oneness to exist. If you introduce boundaries and if you introduce closed doors, then the separateness starts to erode. Very small at the beginning, however, it is still an energetic change, and that energetic change will be felt. The energy within the Mythian civilization now is very sensitive to change and very sensitive to being excluded. We live in a inclusive civilization, so we are all connected and we are all one, so we know what is going on. If the energy shifts, if the energy changes, we feel it.
Therefore, I suppose there's no poverty.
There is no poverty.
Did you have poverty before?
Yes, that we had people like you have on this planet. We had people who had nothing, but only when it was gauged as against having something or not having something. Only when you compared one person to another, or in the way that you run your civilization, it is a question of what or how much money does a human have and what can they spend that on. Poverty exists in your world simply because there is a judgment from other people as to how much a person has or does not have. At the basic level, the basic ways of being in the Mythian civilization, there is equality. Equality is the founding principle within the way we come together as one.
So I could imagine that that would be quite easy and highly beneficial for people who had been involved with poverty before the shift, to then become equal within society.
Of course, there has to be a balancing.
How did the people who had more than other people cope with this change in their lifestyle?
Well, it came about to the point where they realised that they were not separate beings, and if there was somebody who lived at the end of their street without a house or without something, they were hurting themselves if they were not prepared to help them out, to give them food. It was a question of realising that there was no separation. That is the key to, I would use the word eradicate poverty, but we do not have poverty. You have poverty, as I have said, simply because of the judgment.
So would you say that the people who had a lot at the beginning are now happier as a result of accepting their oneness and sharing what they have?
Yes, that is the natural development of the energy from being separate to acknowledging and responding as one. Happiness is the basic experience. It is the equivalent of love as well. It is that which comes out of the oneness.
I'm not sure whether you can describe this, because I understand that our passage through time is different from yours. But the shift that you went through from the point where you were being controlled by people with the power to where you are now, how long perhaps did that take? In perhaps we could use someone's lifetime to describe it. Was it a whole lifetime, or was it, a portion of a lifetime?
Well, if you want to look at it in terms of a human lifetime, for instance, you have to be at that point where the majority of those that are in that lifetime are of the same energy, that are of the same desire to acknowledge the oneness of your civilization. It is not something I think I can compare to the way that it happened on Mythia, simply because there are intricate differences in the way that you live your life here on Earth compared to us. And the only comparison I think that we can make is that from a ratio perspective, if you imagine that your entire human race is the whole, and if you say something like 70 to 75% of that race is of the same, that is about the level at which it starts to take on its own way of being, that the oneness starts to reveal itself in all its glory, in all its abilities. Though the time that it takes to get to that is dependent on those that participate in it.
So about 70% is the tipping point, you feel?
Something like that, 70, 75. It might be higher or lower depending on the energetic presence of those that are participating in it.
Did you have some kind of catalyst that really helped people focus on their oneness? For example, was there some kind of natural event that took place, or?
No, it was, well, yes, it was natural, though it was within the psyche or the energeticness of the civilization as a whole that it started to, how would I describe it? It started to constellate as an energy within, you might say, a seed that begins to grow, that is planted and nurtured and begins to grow. It is the passing of the seed from one to another, the sharing of resources, the sharing of equality that is passed, the sharing of love, the non-judgment that can start simply with one person in a civilization and can spread throughout the entire planet. That is the internal natural way that it occurred for the Mythian people.
Do you think that was as a result of the effects of changes in energy around your planet, maybe from other planets?
Well, we were not really aware of, as a civilization, we were not aware of the way other energies within the universe. Of course, at the level where those that were already operating within the fourth dimensional qualities, telepathy, channeling, that kind of thing, that is becoming more and more apparent here. That was, again, something that was revealing for the Mythian civilization, but through fear it was rejected, and it was a question of the dissatisfaction that exists within the separateness, constellating as a collective dissatisfaction, if you want to use that, that then got to the point where the dissatisfaction collectively was sufficient for those involved to express themselves as one individual who is separate, is left as a separate person trying to express themselves, has very little energetic power. However, if that individual is joined and large numbers of individuals join together as one, the power of the one overcomes the power of the few. It is the natural energy that flows.
Yes. Are there other members of your civilization who are also visiting humans at this point?
There are, but I do not know who they are or where on the planet they are, though they are here. Energetically, not necessarily in the form of how you would see us on Mythia. That would look odd.
Yes.
Wouldn't it?
Well,
Yes.
whereas you've just come as energy form, and
That is our way of being now, to be in more than one or two places at once.
and yet you are also functioning as a Mythian on Mythia as we speak at this point.
Of course.
Are you aware of any other civilizations visiting Earth with similar messages for us at this time?
Well, we do not call them by any name. We are aware of the energies that exist within the forming of the one, and it is through that interaction that the Mythian civilization is in contact with humankind. Though I do not know the names that you might use for those types of
Sure.
civilizations or energies that exist that may be here to
Yes.
assist you.
Yes. In fact, I wanted to pick up on that because I presume you don't speak English on Mythia,
No,
but you're speaking English through this body.
because that is its natural way of communicating.
So how does that work for you as you come in? How does the language actually come out as English?
Well, I am in this physical body now as an energy, and the energy that is myself is circulating around the body and understanding how it works. It is not that different to a Mythian body, if you like. And what happens is the energy circulates within the various aspects and centres of the brain and can utilise the various functions that are within the brain. And of course there is a language centre that communication is used to communicate ideas and energetic forms. And that is simply the way. Of course, there was, when I first made contact with him through a telepathic transfer of energies, it was merely myself sending out a energy wave that was received by an aspect of him and was able to translate it into the way you perhaps or he perhaps thinks. as a communication tool. So it was an energy that was a kind of translation. So he was able to pick up and sense that my energy was around and available.
So if you were invited into any other channels, bodies perhaps around the world, speaking a variety of languages, you could speak through them as the language
would be their natural language that they think and speak.
Yes. Thank you. That's very interesting. Is there anything else that you would like to add at this point?
No, this is very good to be with you in this present moment.
It's wonderful.
I know that he is doing YouTube clips and has done one with me, which was fun. So there will be more of those. And of course, I am or will be in touch with the Mythian Elder Council to receive from them that which they wish to communicate to the human race.
Yes.
It, as I have said to you, is simply an offer of an energetic experience that we have gone through, that you are about to go through, and it is not certain that as a civilization you will accept as a whole the oneness of your being, though we are here to say to you and to facilitate that as an experience, that it is something we have gone through, and if you wish to use the word success, we have successfully transitioned or transformed in terms of the raising of our level of energetic presence as one.
That's fantastic. And I'm sure we would very much welcome you to visit us again, and I'm sure there will be other people who will join me in asking more questions to help us understand more about how we can help ourselves and help our planet to live in a state of peace and harmony and love.
Well, that is correct. It is really your choice as one civilization as to whether you wish to make this transition or not.
And at this time you're working with Ortherus and his unification of spirit mission.
That is right. There are many energies that are available to support that, and there is, I wouldn't use the word excitement, but there is lots of higher vibrational energies that are coming and will be available to Ortherus and the One in order to be available to the human civilization.
Well, I'd like to thank you for coming.
Thanks is not needed. It is simply part of who we are. You will come to understand that the oneness of the Mythian civilization is not limited to the Mythian civilization. It is an extension and encompasses humankind as well.
As we are all one.
We are all one.
Yes.
Though you have to acknowledge and allow that to be your way of being.
Thank you so much.